The October 24th, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee meeting will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello?
Here.
Mr. Antelli?
Here.
Mr. Broth?
Here.
Mr. Colby?
Here.
Mr. Haney?
Here.
Chairman Howland?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Here.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There are 4 public forum speakers this evening. When I call your name, please come forward and address the committee with your remarks. You will have 2 minutes and only 2 minutes in which to present your remarks, and we ask that you conclude when the timer sounds. And thank you for your cooperation. Our first speaker is Anna Sears. Please come forward.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with the EPW committee. I am Anna Sears, co-founder of Our Cause and a Brighton resident. To help explain why I support the bill to place a moratorium on accepting fracking waste at county facilities, I'd like to share with you the summary report of the human health risks and exposure pathways of proposed horizontal hydrofracking in New York State. It was recently presented to the DEC and the DOH on October 9th by public health and chemistry professionals. The writers divided the health risks into 20 topics. I'll read sections from 3 immediately relevant topics for Monroe County to give you a gist of this report. 1, radioactive sludge from drilling sites will contaminate landfills. All landfill membranes fail over time, and leaching or flooding can result in contamination of nearby ponds, streams, or groundwater. 2, vehicles transporting radioactive chemical-laden waste, liquid or solid, increase the risk of human exposure and/or contamination of the environment in the event of accidents. Unlike the nuclear energy industry, the gas industry is exempt from tracking vehicles carrying radioactive waste. These vehicles carry no warning signs or instructions in the event of emergencies. 3, spreading radioactive chemical-laden wastewater on roads will expose drivers, passengers, and pedestrians and contaminate nearby surface water, land, and agricultural fields and homes, schools, and playgrounds. It thus behooves the county to know and disclose what is being accepted in our landfills and wastewater treatment plants. Let's not allow Monroe County or the rest of New York State to become the dumping ground for fracking waste. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Tom Gregory.
I have to applaud Legislator Wilcox and his interest in preserving the environment. I think we all have that same interest. However, there are always another side of the argument. I'm not an expert in the field, but I spent the last couple of days kind of really going in and seeing what the industry has to say. And a lot of the complaints that are said about no regulation, well, there's no federal regulation, but there's state law. If you read most of the federal guidelines or federal comments made by people who are experts in the field, they'll say, yeah, the federal government is looking at regulation, but they don't feel it's necessarily necessary because the state already has laws in place. Talk about radiation. We're not talking about, the nuclear like U-235, U-238. We're talking about particles that break down rather quickly and that actually emit alpha particles, which basically don't even penetrate your skin. Tell you the truth. A person who smokes cigarettes is going to bring more alpha particles into their body. But that's really not even the argument. I'm not an expert chemist. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I will ask you this question here. Do you think the people over there in the administration who run our sewer treatment plants and run our wastewater area, handle our disposable waste, are going to allow anything to happen to the public? I don't think so, because this county would be accountable and they'd be accountable. And therefore, I think we have to look at what this, do we trust ourselves? Now, some people say that we're not worthy of trust. I'd say we are. And I don't think this moratorium is necessary because I think we have competence in the administration and competence in the professionals who work for us in very particularized fields, call them engineers or chemists or whatever. And I think that's what we ought to trust, where we need to put our trust. I've got to trust somebody. This is a viable, this is a big issue. It's a big industry. It's going to help us a lot if we bring it into this state. And I don't think Monroe County should be an outside player. I think we should be a player in the growth of this industry. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nedra Harvey.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Nedra Harvey, a city resident, and I'm extremely concerned about the county accepting fracking waste into our treatment plants. And I'm also concerned about the process of decision-making. A decision to engage in any aspect of gas drilling cannot be made without a lengthy, in-depth study. If the legislature intends to study or is in the process of studying this issue, the public has a right and a responsibility to be part of that decision-making process. This is a huge public health issue that we all know affects all of us. Therefore, we respectfully call on the legislature and administration to do the following. Please be transparent. Make public all details of your legislative decision-making process in regard to proposed drilling-related activity on county properties. And please let the public know what you are considering in this regard. How and from whom will you gather information? Will you take a reality tour of Pennsylvania and talk with people living with drilling? If you hire consultants, how will they be selected and reimbursed? 2, please be inclusive. Gather public comments and report your findings and decisions in an ongoing manner. We have so little to go on. I think only one newspaper article that talks about this issue, and it's important to everybody. Also, please be ethical, as we know you are. The protection of our environment and our citizens must be paramount. What efforts will be made to temper the influence of gas industry money and party politics? And can we be creative in finding other ways to get money for the county if we find that this is really dangerous? And right now we don't know how to clean that radiation out of the water. So as a concerned citizen, I believe that no aspect of gas drilling should be exempt from public disclosure, but I'm confident that our county legislature and administration will act to ensure our health, welfare, and safety in a nonpartisan manner. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Fitzsimmons.
Thank you for this opportunity to present before the committee and for the opportunity to be here with Anna Sears and Nedra Harvey, who've worked tirelessly on this issue for quite some time. Chairman Howland and the members of the committee, I request that you seriously consider the application before you containing over 4,000 signatures of Monroe County residents seeking a moratorium restricting high-volume slick water, horizontal hydraulic fracturing, and any related ancillary activities within Monroe County for a period of up to 1 year. The presence of such a moratorium will protect all the citizens of this county while providing time for the committee and the legislative body to seriously consider the concerns presented and ultimately an appropriate direction to proceed. Among the specific concerns cited in this application, the most immediate is with respect to the acceptance of fracking waste in any form, such as flowback for treatment in our water treatment facilities, waste to be used for de-icing our roadways, or solid waste in any form that has its origins from the fracking process. Please take special note that though the state of Pennsylvania has opened its borders to this new and extremely controversial form of natural gas extraction, Pennsylvania does not allow the treatment, use, or disposal of any form of fracking waste within those same borders. Such knowledge should prove cautionary to the committee members and the legislature as a whole, just as it is clearly clearly is to the citizenry this body is charged to protect. Thank you for your consideration in this regard. On behalf of all the citizens in this county, we look forward to working with this committee and the legislature to appropriately and comprehensively address these critical concerns regarding the preservation of our collective health and prosperity. Thank you.
Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? There being none, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the September 26, 2012 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 12-281, establishing a moratorium on the acceptance of wastewater, flowback water, or any fluid waste as a result of horizontal drilling and/or high-volume hydraulic fracturing.
Yeah, I move the item.
Okay, since Legislator Wilcox, this is basically your referral, I'll let you start by explaining it.
Appreciate the opportunity. The reason that I put forward and members of the Democratic Caucus put forward the legislation is because we are concerned about the environmental and public health effects of hydrofracking wastewater. We know that certain communities, and not necessarily in this state, but in other states, have gone forward and have started treating hydrofracking wastewater, only to find out that that water has made its way into their drinking water and also destroyed their public plants that treat the wastewater. So our concern is we believe that we shouldn't rush forward. We believe that we should take some time, place a moratorium on the treatment of this wastewater, so that we can actually understand the public health impacts better, the same way that the governor has decided to do by requesting additional time for the Department of Health to look at the public health impacts. The EPA is also taking additional time in studying the potential impacts to drinking water. That study is not due to be completed until, I believe, 2014. With that said, I think the merits for waiting and placing a moratorium on the treatment of hydrofracking wastewater are well established. So I hope that this committee will at least think about the actions of the governor, the actions at the federal level when considering this referral. And those actions are meant to protect our public health and the environment.
Okay, before we open discussion on this referral, I'd like to thank the public for their input and interest in this matter. This is a very complex issue, and there is a lot of information that supports each view, and everyone who speaks to this issue speaks with a lot of sincerity. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has yet to issue an opinion on this issue, even though they have been reviewing it for over a year. This referral lacks any substantive data or reasoning as to why a moratorium should be established in Monroe County, and does not offer any data to support its claim. While we have not received any formal recommendations from New York State, I believe that the Monroe County Department of Environmental Services should be willing to compile its own report for this committee so that we can make an informed decision. Therefore, I'm going to refer this to the administration and would request that they report back to this committee on the administration's policy and plan with regards to the acceptance of wastewater, flowback water, or any fluid waste as a result of the hydraulic fracturing. If any members of this committee would like to request that specific material be included in the administration's report, Those requests should be put in writing and sent to me. With that, the discussion of this item is closed, and we'll move on to the next item.
Referral 12-301.
I think what you're doing is subject to a tabling motion, and I would move to table the referral until the January 2013 meeting of this committee, at which time we could have such a report back.
Legislator Haney, if you check your book on the rules of our legislature, I do have the authority to refer it, and I've already referred it, so that's what we'll be doing.
Is there any time frame attached to your referral?
I will have to find that out from the administration after they have a chance to look at what they have to do.
So in effect, you're just sending it to the dustbin?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's what referrals to the administration usually are.
Point of order. The actual language in the handbook that you refer to, the rules, it's a bit unclear to me whether or not we actually retain control of the bill when we refer it. Is it your understanding, Mr. Chairman, that we retain control, that we can call it back at our discretion? Like a tabling motion? I apologize.
I believe it would be upon me to bring it back.
It would be upon you to bring it back. I apologize. Could you just refer to, could somebody please refer to the section in the handbook that says exactly what you just said?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't know.
Page 58, Section 3.
Page 58, Section 3, Legislator Colby tells me.
Can you please read it?
The referral must be moved and seconded in order for it to be considered. The referral is discussed and then voted on by the administration for further information or tabling or filing at that time.
I don't think that speaks to the question of Legislator Wilcox.
Well,
let me say this.
Yeah, I do believe you have the ability to refer, but I thought the way I read that, Mr. Chairman, was to, like any legislative body, they may refer it to another committee or a subcommittee or a special committee, but to refer it to another branch in which the members of that committee cannot recall by a vote, that referral seems to me to be a violation of the spirit of our rules.
Okay, as I understand it, and since I'm chairman, I guess I'll have to make a decision. In the beginning of the powers of a chairman, it states the chairman has the same powers of the president of the legislature, and he is allowed to issue referrals and then bring them back. So if I have the same powers, I am issuing this referral, and then at the proper time, after the administration has had time to assess this information, they will bring it back to us, and I will, at that time, I will bring it back to this body. Can we have the next resolution,
Sure.
please?
Referral 12-301.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Anselli. Is there any discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote.
All in favor?
All in favor? Opposed? The referral passes.
Okay. Referral 12-302, authorize a lease agreement.
Moved by Legislator Antelli, seconded by Legislator Anselli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, do we have excess space at the Fleet Center that we can bring the Soil and Water Conservation District into the Fleet Center without disrupting our own operations?
Through the chair, Justin Roy with Environmental Services. The answer to the question is yes.
The second question, Mr. Chairman, through you to the administration is, why would we not take a cash, they're currently paying, they're on Scottsville Road, as I recall now, obviously currently paying rent on Scottsville Road. Why would we not take cash payment for the leasing of our property?
Legislator Colby?
They're not paying rent right now. They're in a quasi-agreement with the federal government, and they get the space they're using now is being paid for by the federal government in trade of us trading them. The Soil and Water gives them some office staff and answering their phones and that type of stuff. And so, and that agreement looks like it's going to die in the near future because the federal government is looking to consolidate their offices, and they would do away with the office in Monroe County. So instead of waiting for that disaster to happen, the administration and Soil and Water, with Dick Yodovich's help, has come up with this plan to move them over into this excess space for the purpose, and then that office staff that was giving help to the other agency will help Monroe County agencies out in swap of lieu of rent.
So they're not paying rent?
No, that's correct. They're not paying rent.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? All those opposed? The referral passes.
Referral 12-305, authorize a contract.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Anselli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the source of the funding for the $335,000 that we're going to pay Malcolm Perney through the chair?
Through the chair, the sources of funding are twofold. It's funding from the Stormwater Coalition itself, and then the remainder of the funding will come from the Pure Waters districts.
Through the chair, how much of the funding is coming from the county Pure Waters districts?
25% of the funding through the chair.
Okay. And through the chair, which Pure Waters districts is this being funded from?
Solely from, through the chair, solely through Rochester.
The stormwater problem is a county-wide problem. Why is it only being funded from the city Pure Waters district?
Through the chair, the city Pure Waters district, as you may be aware, has a combined stormwater
Right.
as well as sanitary sewer system. The outlying districts are solely sanitary, so hence they are paying through the Stormwater Coalition funds, which represent most municipalities that will be affected by the study. And the Rochester district, again, because of its combined sewer system, is in essence a special case because there's a different variety of services there, so hence the Rochester district is paying for 25% of the study.
Through the chair, my real puzzlement is that since the city has a combined sanitary and storm sewer system, for better or for worse, and frequently for worse, but it is, the city, in effect, has no stormwater problem. I mean, all the stormwater is going into the sanitary sewer system. As I understand it, the problem is in the towns where the stormwater currently just runs off the roads or runs through a collector pipe and dumped in the nearest creek, etc. Why? How is the city district benefiting from the stormwater study?
Through the chair, the city one is the named MS4, meaning it is the named municipality. for the purposes of stormwater treatment. And I would argue that it was incorrect to state that stormwater is not a problem in the city. Obviously, there's the sea soap tunnel system, which is a great asset, which does prevent a great many stormwater overflows when we have heavy rains. However, there's still stormwater overflows that occur, and I believe there's been recent legislation passed in the state that requires notification when there's combined sewer overflows. There's certainly a need, and the city, as a stormwater coalition member, kind of acknowledges this fact to make use of green infrastructure, bioswales, green roofs, what have you, to limit runoff into the combined system, because the combined system can overflow, and then when it does overflow, most likely flows into the river, Genesee River, and obviously that's something all parties would like to avoid due to the impacts to the river. Although at one point before the combined system, the city would experience about 60 overflows in a given year, and now experiences about a half dozen or less in a given year. So while there is not as much of a problem as there was in the past, there are still certainly concerns regarding stormwater runoff in the city of Rochester.
So as far as the city district goes, through the chair, the intent would be to further reduce or perhaps eliminate the necessity for the high volume overflows into the river?
Through the chair, that is correct, and an ancillary benefit actually was just discussed with the city yesterday. It would be to potentially reduce underpass flooding, like you see around the public market at Union Street. You occasionally see on 490. You also see it a number of other city intersections where there's particularly old bridge trestle overpasses.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, I mentioned several other consultants were considered. Which other consultants were considered for this project?
Through the chair, just give me a second to see if I have that in my file. Through the chair, the 5 firms that were shortlisted included obviously Arcadis, that was selected, Barton LaJudas, Bergman Associates, Lou Engineers, and O'Brien and Gear.
Thank you. And of those other 4 consultants, am I correct to assume, although they weren't the most qualified by per this referral, but were they considered qualified?
Through the chair, we would state that any firm that was shortlisted to submit a proposal has the minimum qualifications to do the job. The proposals allow us to differentiate who's the best of the qualified consultants to do the job.
Thank you. My final question is, did the other consultants provide a different price point than the consultant Malcolm Perney?
Through the chair, we gauge in a qualification-based selection,
Okay.
and therefore negotiations on price and scope and fee occur after selection.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? All those opposed? The referral passes.
Referral 12-309, amend Resolution 123.
Okay, moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Colby and Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The transmittal, I'm a little confused by the transmittal. The transmittal speaks of that the project is replacing a pump station in Henrietta that services the Riverton community area of Henrietta. How are Wheatland and Scottsville involved if the project is remediating a problem at a pump station that services Riverton?
Through the chair, Jason Kennedy, Chief of Engineering with DES. Really, there's two projects at hand. This referral references an intermunicipal agreement that this honorable body authorized the county to execute with the Village of Scottsville and the towns of Wheatland back in March of this year. That agreement effectively acknowledges that the Village of Scottsville is going to construct a new pump station and force main and decommission their existing treatment plant that discharges to Walker Creek. It's one of only a handful left in the county. This agreement, again, it enables them effectively to construct a new pump station and force main and convey both Village of Scottsville and Town of Wheatland sewage to the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Water District. As part of the prior authorization in the agreement, this honorable body approved or authorized the county, rather, to reimburse the engineering firm that is designing those improvements for the Village of Scottsville and Town of Wheatland, to also design some needed improvements downstream in the district, namely relocation of the aged force main at the existing Riverton pump station that is also referenced in this referral. So effectively, the district is undertaking its own project, and the agreement speaks to the village and town's project.
So, through the chair, the $225,000, is that being paid by the Pure Waters District to the Village of Scottsville?
Through the chair, that is correct. The Village of Scottsville had bid their project a couple of months ago, and in that project it included basic communication from their proposed pump station to the district in the form of radio communication, which is, I'll term it as a basic communication system. And then several weeks ago, the county opened bids for our project, and we have an opportunity in that both low bid contractors are one and the same, Blue Heron, and the bids were favorable. They were within 1% of the engineer's estimate and 15% below our original project estimate. So we have an opportunity now to upgrade the base radio communication system to a fiber system, which is preferred by the district. So we've effectively are asking for authorization to amend the agreement to allow the village's contractor to put that fiber in place in lieu of the radio system, and then we would reimburse the village and their contractor for said services.
Through the chair, has the village had to construct a connection between their system and the Riverton pump station? Is that the idea?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And who paid for the construction of that connection?
Through the chair, that construction is ongoing, and the Village of Scottsville and Town of Wheatland sewerage customers are paying for that.
Okay. The district is not paying for that?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The referral passes. Is there any unfinished business to come before the committee? There being no unfinished business, the October 24th, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting will be November 28th, 2012 at 5 p.m.